Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's week 2 of the Pokemon Unite Breath of Evolution tier list. I'm Gene Brickman. So we've got another video on the channel talking about the week 1 placements. And I'm going to be referencing that video a bit, so if you haven't checked it out already, go check it out. Alright, so to start us off, we're going to start with the D tier, or just the last place tier. I don't want to be too harsh on some of these guys since they're not all bad per se. But I mean, they're not the they would, I would say, the worst of all of their counterparts. So first we're gonna start off with Cramorant, Lucario, sit there right next with them, Greedent, and Sableye. So these guys were last place last time, mostly with Greedent and Sableye. It's just kind of the unviability in a solo queue setting. Your team doesn't really know how to play with them, so they tend to make some mistakes that you and play the way you don't want them to play. As opposed to Lucario and Cramorant, who, when compared to the rest of the all-rounders and attackers, there's just clearly better options. So as for the Speedster in the last place, well, I'm actually going to leave that for the end because they've been going through quite a lot since the recent changes. So skipping that, we're just going to go right on to the C tier, or what I'd call the maybe don't play them tier. So we're gonna start off first with Mew. Mew, actually, I had him in the like the C tier-ish. I kind of moved him down. He just hasn't been performing that well recently, ever since the attackers have been let off the leash. And Duraludon also, he's just gonna stay in the C tier. Again, not doing too much work. Being a stationary attacker isn't really helping him too much when you have like Decidueye or Venusaur, who's just doing so much more work than him right now. So also sitting, not moving, is Darkstyle Urshifu. We'll get into the water style in a second, but he's definitely not performing as well as his counterpart right now. Machamp, he's gonna stay in the same tier, same as Zeraora. Not enough damage on these guys, right? So next we're gonna have Goodra, who is gonna drop a tier. And Goodra's nerfs, I don't think actually were that needed. Playing a couple of games with Goodras, they've all haven't performed well. Really, definitely in a weird position, but definitely not a good position. 100%. Last to fill it out, we have Eldegoss. This is just way better in terms of shields, in terms of mobility. Now we're going to the not bad tier. Capital B on the bad. Let's just start off with a couple all-rounders. So we have Pikachu, Espeon, Decidueye, Delphox, Gardevoir, Miraidon, Glaceon, Chandelure, Cinderace, Inteleon, and finally Armarouge. Well, I guess I forgot about Mewtwo. He's a bit forgettable, isn't he? So quite a bit of attackers to put all at once. A couple of these guys stay the same, right? Decidueye, for instance, he stayed the same. Delphox still in the B tier. Chandelure still in the B tier. Cinderace, and again, they all have the same kind of weakness going on with them. So they all got 3 stages to evolve. You know, in the early part of the game, like, having more evolutions wasn't that bad, but now they're adding a lot more Pokemon who don't evolve or have 1-stage evolution. So naturally, the ones that take longer to evolve are actually going to fall a little bit lower in the tier. So we do have Pokemon though, like Pikachu, Espeon, Glaceon, Armarouge. All these guys are they fell from I would say a solid pick to just a not bad pick. It mostly has to do with the power creep, that the door for good attackers really opened up, and there are specific niches that have been working very well with a lot of team comps in the solo queue game. Just some attackers that naturally go well with some team fights a lot better than others. And you'll see I got Pikachu at the top of the not bad tier. And so Pikachu does have probably the most potential to, be a solid pick. It's just I see when I put the solid picks in, there's just a bit of a difference, a bit of a gap, I'd say, between the potential on some of these Pokemon. So let's just move on to the all-rounders, and first I want to talk about Phalanx, who is one Pokemon that has been climbing crazy through the win rate. So right now I have opened just the best Pokemon win rate for the week, and you'll see Phalanx is still comfortably sitting 53%. And yeah, you'll see over here that Phalanx is the third highest win rate out of all the mons in the game, and he still has around same pick rate. So I played a few of these games myself with Phalanx, and he's a bit niche. Talking to some other people about him, he does have his own specific strengths that, like Dust Devil Storm is a very good Unite move, but only if you are ahead. So I would have put him in the solid pick tier, but he is actually not the easiest to get the hang of, and there is actually a much better set that you should be running with Phalanx. Yeah, so I'll make a video in the future talking about Phalanx and which sets and emblems you should be running on him, just to make him as effective as possible. But for now, I'm gonna have to put him at the top of the not bad tier. So moving down a tier, we have Dragonite actually going from A to B. 3-tiered It's just coming from the fact that it's a 3-tiered evolution that doesn't just make him a bit outclassed compared to some of these A-tier picks right now. Next up we have Azumarill and Tyranitar. Then we got Tinkaton, Charizard actually moving up from the maybe don't play to the not bad tier. He's proving to be a little bit more usable. He definitely got a buff a while back with his Unite move being on lower cooldown, which he has been able to use pretty effectively now. Next one we got Mewtwo X and Garchomp. Garchomp is just making that not bad tier. He does have his niches on a few teams. However, he's honestly kind of pushing the limit. You could honestly put him in the maybe don't play tier, but if you can get ahead as Garchomp, you can do a really quick Rayquaza rip, and at that point, yeah, you can ignore your team for a big part of the game and actually just win based off backdooring and being ahead as Garchomp. So just that alone can just secure him that not bad tier. Alright, next we have the Speedsters, and moving down a couple tiers is Zoroark. Last I had him at A, and honestly a potential for being one of the best in the game, but in recent revelations, there has been a big shift in the Speedster meta right now, and he is definitely has been suffering a lot since this attack, the penetration nerf. Moving up on the tier list, though, we got Dodrio, and Dodrio was actually on the top 5 win rate last week. Dodrio has since fallen. So yeah, it's fallen quite a bit, and is only in like the top, it's still in the top 10. So like having over a 50% win rate is honestly pretty good. That is where Pokemon Unite does kind of consider giving the Pokemon nerfs, which is something to be aware of. So it is pretty good having a 51% win rate. So Dodrio's sitting kind of like comfortably in the middle with play rate, which honestly makes it with a pick rate. So honestly makes it a pretty solid pick when looking for a speedster. The only issue Dodrio really has is that it's a fairly niche Pokemon. Alright, so next after Dodrio, moving down a tier as well, is Leafeon, which has the same issue as Zoroark, where their penetration nerf is definitely affecting them more so than other speedsters. And finally, we have Gengar still at the honestly at the end of the B tier. Almost forgot about Serena. So Serena actually is doing fairly well right now. I'm gonna put it actually right under Phalanx. Um, it might actually be an A tier pick. Um, just like Phalanx, it's something that does need to be tested a little bit more. But I mean, if you look at just over at the Unite API, it is someone who is doing very well recently, over 52% win rate, which is very nice. And still having a very low ban rate and a very average pick rate. Alright, so now to round off the defenders and supporters, we have Ho-Oh still at the B tier next to Crustle, who's also going to stay in the same tier. And I'm actually going to be moving Slowbro up to the not bad tier. Kind of taking Guja's place as the tanky special attacker who lives a little too long, let's just say. Alright. And then now to finish off the last two, we have Mr. Mime and Clefable. Gravity is definitely a great shutdown move, but definitely one of the more situational picks. It does involve counterplaying specific team comps that you see on the other team, which definitely is not a beginner-friendly thing. Alright, so now for the attackers to round off our A tier. At the top, we will have Raichu. So yeah, Raichu was at the top 5. Now he's still at the number 6 spot. Just fell a little bit of percentage. Some of that due to counterplay. He's just been such a metamon for a couple weeks now since his release. But he also does have the highest pick rate and ban rate. So a lot of people playing Raichu, and a Pokemon that will get banned, honestly. So if you're just looking for a new attacker, I would still hold off until Raichu. You might have to wait till Alcremie gets released, or even someone after Alcremie. It'll be a while since you can play that in a ranked game in its current status. Next, falling actually from my must-play tier is Dragapult. Now, Dragapult still is, as you see, very solid pick, and honestly hovering on the must-play. Doesn't suffer from a high ban rate, unlike Raichu, right? But it's actually not as easy to play Dragapult. Because of just his complexity on the character, it's always I see him always just kind of hovering around the 50% win rate. Where he's, exactly at 50% right now. In fact, the only Pokemon with a 50% win rate is Dragapult, right? So, in some ways, the definition of where Pokemon Unite wants the Pokemon to be at. But he's definitely not a Pokemon for everyone, and his movesets definitely reflect on that. So then the next 3 attackers who are going to be staying in their same spot as last time is Dragapult, then Sylveon, and to round out the A tier at the end will be Venusaur, which does leave my pick for the must-play for this week as Alolan Ninetales. Now, it may be a bit of a surprise to see Alolan Ninetales actually as the top spot, but with the current meta as it is, all-rounders might be the best in the game now. Since the speedsters are basically in a don't play situation. That's just led the door open for a lot of all-rounders to take that slot. And Alolan Ninetales is actually the OG Pokemon to deal with all-rounders. Alolan Ninetales was just such ahead of the curve, especially being just a one-stage evolution. And it's just definitely a Pokemon I just do recommend playing, or picking up if you haven't done so already. Next we have the all-rounders, and at the top we're actually going to have Gyarados. And falling from the must-play, just like Dragapult, is Mimikyu. Now, it's not to say that Mimikyu is bad, but recently there has been a Pokemon that has been making the waves, and when comparing that Pokemon to Mimikyu, it is a bit of a steep competition to beat. Um, but even comparing Mimikyu to Gyarados, right? Gyarados just has so much more potential to help a team fight out than Mimikyu. Mimikyu just, he's almost like a speedster as how it relies off picking off targets, but yeah, Gyarados has the most potential to get, to his final evolution early, since Magikarp has his own special damage bar to go through. That does play in role why I don't think he will be the best pick, and why he's honestly kind of comparable to Mimikyu is these are a bit more niche. You do need to know specifically what your passive ability is, and the two alternate abilities that you can get leveling up, because they might be more useful depending which enemy team you're going to be playing against. Next, just at the top of the B tier is Cerulege, which I'll follow by Caesar and Scyther, all just kind of staying in the same range. And at last we'll just throw in Suicune just in there. Still a very top tier all-rounder. So next, after Suicune, we got Aegislash, which is very good pick. Sacred Sword and Coup de Grace are some very strong moves that can melt the attackers very quickly. And honestly, a Pokemon that you could argue be top 3 all-rounders. Alright, after that we got Metagross, followed by Water Urshifu, who has actually been climbing up quite a bit in the recently. Definitely one of the easier all-rounders to get the hang of, which makes it a very good pick. And honestly, just like Aegislash, I feel you can argue that it could be a bit higher on the list. But for now, it's just gonna sit at the mid part of the solid pick, just solid pick. And then to round it off, we'll have Blaziken, who's actually gonna be moving up from a not bad to a solid pick. And yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about these guys other than that they're solid picks, right? So we have 2 all-rounders left. One is a must-play, and just like last time, we have Buzzwole here, and it's a new face, right? Zacian, who I believe at the time was a not bad pick. So Zacian has just definitely been climbing in the win rates a lot. So he's at like a 0.53% increase on his win rate. So he's just shooting up to the top and acting as a very free win in ranked games right now. And his moveset definitely complements what the current meta is. So Buzzwole has been seeing a very big increase in his pick rate. However, he went from a top 5 winning Pokemon to, and this is what I believe was more accurate where he would lie, a Pokemon with an under 50% win rate. And he's been dropping rapidly, very steadily, the last couple of weeks. And he's, despite all the buffs and all the conversation around him, he really doesn't stack up at least in a solo queue sense, as in helping your own team get that Rayquaza buff at the end, which is the most important objective, right? There's a lot of times and a lot of clips as well, Buzzwole getting those 1v5s after the whole team fainted. He's, good thing we have the Buzzwole at the end who's able to get all the KOs, but then he can't, get the Rayquaza buff fast enough or in time, or has to be set after. It takes too long to get those KOs, and it's like he did nothing, right? It's like if you just played a better all-rounder like Zacian, I think the game would have been a lot smoother, right? And so I'm honestly going to have to put Zacian in that must-play category right now. If you don't have all your held items to level 20, he comes equipped with a free level 30 held item with his Rusted Sword, right? So you only need to get 2 now to level 20 if you're going to be playing him, which is such a big boost on early players. And Buzzwole, on the other hand, is honestly is hovering on the B tier, but I'm gonna leave him at the bottom of the A tier for now. Uh, he's still acting as a solid pick. The only thing I will have to say about his low win rate is that he just has the third highest pick rate. So it's a lot of people playing him right now, and there might not be clear consensus on is he really like not holding up. Like again, you don't having a win rate 2% under 50 is something you definitely have to be looking at for actually buffing in the future. So there's a question of his buffs not being enough that might be going around, right? Which might scare some people out there, but it's true. Next we're gonna go with the speedsters, and just like the two before, Darkrai is dropping from the must play to a solid pick. He didn't do anything wrong, it's just a lot of these speedsters have actually been finding success despite the nerfs. And the biggest example of this is Absol, who honestly was in contention of my must play pick. I wrote Absol off very quickly when the patch dropped, and I put him actually all the way in a do not play list. And well, I maybe I was a little bit too harsh on him, right? He played a couple games with him, played against him a couple times, and you know what? He still has it. He still got that sharp edge. He may be honestly a must play, but I do think there is a better option out there. And just to round out the solid pick for the speedsters is Meowscarada. And so that just leaves us with two, right? We got Galarian Rapidash and Talonflame. And if you also remember though, I still haven't awarded my last place. And I'm actually finished my solid picks. So, short story long. One of these two, I think is the best, and the other is the worst. And so, to rip the band-aid off, we're going to be putting Galarian Rapidash down at the bottom for the worst speedster in the game right now. Now, Galarian Rapidash just could not get anything going since Galarian Rapidash has been performing just utterly horribly after those nerfs. It's just such a niche Pokemon, and like, hey, if ranked was first to 500, maybe it'd be at the top, at the must play, but it's not. And so, just in terms of what do you want out of a speedster, it's just played. It's really comes to a point where it's like, can you please play Dodrio instead? And it's honestly one of the reasons why I suspect Dodrio just shot up in win rate recently is people flocking from Rapidash to Dodrio, just a better option. And that leaves that my must-play pick is now Talonflame, and it is something I did say would probably happen last week. And honestly, yeah, Talonflame has been performing very well. Talonflame's definitely been outperforming all the speedsters. Just when it comes to like early level ganks, getting that level 3, level 5 super quickly. Getting the level 5 a lot quicker and being able to contest the 8-minute Alteria's probably the best out of any speedster currently. Perhaps you could put Absol, as a contention spot for that must play position, but for me right now, Talonflame is definitely the most versatile for those ranked solo games. So next we moving up from the B to the A, you got Trevenant. Actually putting at the top of the solid pick list. So he takes some pretty big nerves with his Wood Hammer and his Horn Leech, going from like a second to 0.75 seconds, and that damage ratio going down pretty effectively. But his kit is just such a great kit for a defender. It's very close to the other ones around him, which to Mammoth Swine, who's actually just right next to him. And it's just really just a better Mammoth Swine in the sense that Mammoth Swine can go like a whole 5 minutes without getting to his final evolution. And you know, there's a lot of times where you can be contesting that top lane Regieleki, and Trevenant will do a lot more work than the Pillar Swine on your team, which just can't make it, which in my opinion just puts it shy of the top position. And then, so yeah, and then just to fill out the rest, we just have Umbreon, Snorlax, and Lapras as still remaining as the top picks for the defenders, and still just very good picks in general. Very good picks in general. And that just leaves that our last S tier, which from going to be the same as last week, is Blastoise. And honestly, there's not much to comment on Blastoise besides he is just the best defender at just locking down multiple targets, getting KOs, you know, fighting inside the pits, Regieleki pit or Rayquaza pit. It doesn't really, I mean, as good as Trevenant and Mammoth Swine can be at their CC, it really doesn't compare to Blastoise. And it's, as well as versatility. I mean, all of Blastoise's moves are very specific, so knowing what kind of team you're running up against is a good thing to know about Blastoise. But just sticking with your attacker, and honestly, it's probably the easiest defender to get some wins with. So now just to round out with the supporters, at the top of the A tiers, locking this position down is just Psyduck, followed by Comfey, who's just at the tip of the must play. Interesting enough, Comfey actually is a Pokemon that just recently got introduced to the ban list, just last week. So a Pokemon that has been seen, it comes in waves on the annoyance of Comfey, and it usually just has to directly do with how strong some of these attackers are. And right now is a really good Comfey Zacian strategy going on that might give you a lot of success if you're running any dual queues. So after Comfey, we have Wigglytuff, and then at the end of the solid pick, we have Hoopa, which is just as a support that just mostly relies on your team being able to carry, which does leave the must play to Blissey again, and not much of a surprise. I mean, Blissey is just notorious for just shutting down almost any speedster or all-rounder from getting that attacker KO, and yeah, still just being very good at it. And even games where you're losing for the first 8 minutes, just getting that Unite move off at that Rayquaza fight changes everything. So yeah, so that's the tier list for week 2 for Breath of Evolution. A couple Pokemon moved up. Big shuffle in the must play. 3 new Pokemon taking over the spots over there. And so some very big jumps, like Absol going all the way, I would say in the don't play to a solid pick, and vice versa. You have Galarian Rapidash going all the way from a not bad pick to just honestly a Pokemon I would avoid at all costs, right now. Definitely a Pokemon that could use a couple buffs before being thrown back into the rank scene. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you on Wednesday with the Pokemon Unite quiz. I've been Gene Brickman, and I hope you guys have a great Monday.